The room was small and silent except for the humming light that never went dark. Cold metal walls trapped every sound, every breath. The girl chained in the center was named Lisa, a young alien woman with pale silver skin and tired violet eyes. Her wrists were raw from the cuffs, but she didn't cry anymore. She had learned that tears only made them smile. The creatures who held her were called the Velith, tall, smooth-skinned, and without faces that could show mercy. For 7 long days, they asked the same question again and again. Where did the human ship go? And every time her answer was the same. I don't know. They didn't believe her. The Velith liked to break people without touching them. They changed the lights from bright white to deep red until her eyes burned. They played a low, shaking sound that never stopped. They made the air so thin that every breath hurt. It wasn't pain on her skin. It was pain in her soul. They called it clean pain. Each day blurred into the next. Her voice was weak, her body shaking, but her spirit still held a single spark, a memory of a human named Aaron Vale. He was no warrior. He was a repairman, an engineer with messy hair and a grin that could warm a cold room. She had met him weeks ago at a trade station on the edge of Velith space. He sold small tools and fixed broken machines for anyone who asked, often for free. Lisa remembered how he smiled at a child who tried to steal water filters. Instead of being angry, he said, "Keep it, little one. Water isn't something to steal. It's something to share." That smile had stayed in her mind through every scream, every light, every endless hour. She thought about it when the Velith turned the sound up, when they made her stand without sleep, when they asked again about the human ship. She never spoke his name. She would rather die. On the 7th night, when her lips were dry and her eyes were dull, something changed. The sound stopped. The lights flickered once. In the silence, she heard a faint noise, metal shifting above her head. Then a whisper. "Lisa," the voice said. Her heart jumped. It couldn't be. It was only another trick. The Velith often used recordings to test her, to see if she would speak. She closed her eyes and stayed silent. The whisper came again, louder this time. "Lisa, if you can hear me, tap twice." Her breathing quickened. The voice was rough, warm, too alive to be fake. Trembling, she lifted her hand and tapped her cuff twice against the metal wall. "Good," the whisper said, and she heard a soft laugh she thought she'd never hear again. "It's me, Aaron." Her eyes filled with tears she had forgotten how to make. "No," she whispered. "You can't be here." "I can," Irene said quietly. "And I am. I found you." She shook her head, her body trembling. "They'll kill you, Aaron, go." He chuckled softly. "I'll think about that later. Right now we're getting you out." She could almost see his grin through the vent. "In 3 minutes," he said, "the lights will go out. I hacked their grid using scrap wire and a mining torch. When that happens, the door will unlock for 8 seconds. That's all we have. You fall to the floor, crawl left, there's a vent. I'll pull you through." Lisa stared at the door, her heart pounding. "You'll die for this." "Not planning to," he said, voice shaking but full of stubborn fire. "Just trust me." Trust. Such a small word. But she remembered his kindness, his foolish bravery, and that was enough. The humming in the walls grew louder. Aaron whispered, "1 minute." She heard movement, faint metal scraping. "Lisa?" "Yes?" "If I say run, run." She gave a weak laugh. "I can't even stand." "Then crawl fast," he said. The lights flickered once, twice, and died. Darkness swallowed the room. The cuffs around her wrists released with a soft click. She fell hard onto the floor, gasping, but she didn't waste time. She crawled toward the left wall, hands shaking, searching for the panel he had promised. A section of the wall shifted. A hand reached out, warm, human, trembling. "Got you," Aaron whispered. Before she could answer, a siren screamed across the corridors. Red lights began to flash. The Velith had noticed. Aaron pulled her into the vent, just as footsteps thundered outside the door. They crawled through the narrow tunnel, metal scraping under their hands. "Almost there," he said, his breath loud in the echoing dark. Lisa turned her head toward him, barely able to see his face in the red glow. "You're insane," she whispered. "Probably," he said, grinning even as alarms blared. "But I'm not leaving you." Behind them, something metallic shifted in the vents. A soft, slithering noise that didn't belong to either of them. Lisa froze. "What's that sound?" she asked. Aaron's face turned pale. "That's not an alarm," he whispered. "That's the reactor." The tunnel shook. Heat rolled through the metal walls. The Valeth hadn't just locked down the station, they had triggered a trap. Aaron tightened his grip on her hand. "No more pain," he said. "We're not dying here." And with that, he started crawling faster into the darkness, dragging her toward a new kind of danger, and a reckless promise he intended to keep. The tunnel shook like a living creature trying to breathe. Hot air rushed through narrow vents, carrying the bitter smell of burning metal. Aaron's voice came sharp through the dark. "Move, Lisa, the reactor's waking up." Lisa crawled behind him, her body weak, but her will stronger than before. Every pull of her arm made her wounds ache, but she didn't stop. The siren grew louder, a deep growl that vibrated in her bones. "What did you do?" she asked, coughing. Aaron gave a short, guilty laugh. "I looped their power grid. It was supposed to be a small blackout. I think I made their reactor angry." Lisa stared at him in disbelief even as she crawled. "Angry?" "Yeah," he said breathlessly. "You know, the kind that explodes." A metal wall behind them cracked open, flooding the tunnel with red light. Lisa turned and saw it, liquid fire spilling through the vent, burning everything in its path. "It's melting the lower ducts," she cried. "Then we keep climbing up," Aaron shouted. He turned a corner and kicked at a rusted hatch. It didn't move. He hit it again with his shoulder. Still nothing. "Stuck," he hissed. Without thinking, Lisa crawled beside him and placed her trembling hands on the hatch. "Together," she said. He nodded. They pushed, every muscle screaming. The metal groaned, then finally gave way, swinging open into a wider maintenance tunnel. Cool air rushed in. Aaron helped her through first. Behind them, the smaller vent glowed orange with heat. He slammed the hatch shut just before a burst of flame swept past. The metal sizzled. They both fell to the floor, breathing hard. Lisa's voice was low. "You risked everything for me." Aaron looked at her, his face smeared with soot, eyes bright in the red light. "You'd have done the same." She stared at him for a long moment. "No," she whispered. "I was broken." He shook his head. "Not broken, still fighting. That's why I came." A strange silence filled the tunnel then, heavy but alive. It was cut short by a faint buzzing sound. Aaron frowned. "That's not the reactor," he said. Lisa turned her head. From the far end of the tunnel, a small machine floated into view. It was sleek, shaped like a knife, its eyes glowing white. "A probe drone," she whispered. "They use it to hunt escapees." Aaron grabbed a loose pipe. "Any ideas?" "Yes," she said quickly. "Don't let it see heat." He blinked. "See heat?" "It hunts warm bodies. Hide your warmth." Aaron looked around, then spotted a coolant line running along the tunnel wall. He cracked it open with the pipe, and cold vapor hissed out, filling the air with white fog. The temperature dropped fast. The drone stopped mid-air, confused. Its sensors blinked. It turned slowly, then zipped in the opposite direction. Lisa let out a shaky breath. "You're crazy," she said. Aaron grinned. "And lucky." They moved again, slower this time. The tunnel ahead widened into a chamber filled with broken machines. Aaron looked around and smiled faintly. "Trash ejector bay. Perfect." Lisa frowned. "Trash ejector?" "Shoots garbage into space every 6 minutes," he said. "We can ride it out." "Ride it?" she said in disbelief. It's better than burning alive, he replied, already running to a control panel. He started pulling wires and reconnecting circuits. Sparks flashed. Power's dead. The Velith shut it down. So we're trapped? Not yet. Aaron pulled a small energy cell from his belt. If I connect this battery here, we get one shot. He hesitated, staring at two loose contacts. But someone has to hold them in place. Lisa understood at once. It will shock whoever touches it, she said quietly. Yeah, Aaron admitted. A lot. She looked at him, her face pale but calm. Give it to me. No way, he said quickly. You've been through enough. She shook her head. They took 7 days from me. They will not take your hands too. Before he could stop her, she grabbed the contacts. Electricity jolted through her arms, her teeth clenched, body shaking. But she didn't scream. Aaron connected the last wire, and the ejector system came alive with a low roar. Lights turned green. Let go, he shouted, pulling her away. She fell into his arms, gasping, smoke rising from her gloves. It's ready, she whispered weakly. Aaron smiled, his eyes bright and wild. You did it. They staggered toward the ejector chamber. Countdown in 10 seconds, the system said in a cold voice. The floor began to shake. They stepped inside the narrow launch tube, holding on to each other as the machine prepared to fire. Lisa looked at Aaron. You're insane, she murmured. He smiled faintly. Probably, but you're still here. 5 seconds, the voice said. A sudden grinding noise echoed behind them. Aaron turned and froze. A metal rod had jammed the ejector door from outside. The Velith had locked it. Aaron, Lisa shouted. He dropped to his knees, trying to pull it free. The countdown continued. 3, 2. He used all his strength, muscles burning, but the rod wouldn't move. Come on, he shouted. At the last second, he slammed his shoulder into it. The rod snapped free. The ejector roared. A violent blast of pressure threw them forward into darkness and stars. They were gone, launched into space, surrounded by debris, metal scraps, and silence. But behind them, the Velith station was not dying quietly. Its lights turned blood red, and something deep inside began to grow brighter, like a heart made of fire. For a moment, there was only silence. No light, no air, no sound. Only the slow drift of two small bodies tumbling through space. Lisa opened her eyes to a sky that wasn't a sky at all. It was black and endless, scattered with silver pieces of junk spinning in the dark. Her lungs screamed for air, and panic flashed through her until a soft hiss reached her ears. Aaron pressed a cracked breathing mask over her face. Breathe, Lisa. Slow, easy breaths. Cold air filled her chest. She gasped, then coughed, then breathed again. Around them, hundreds of broken panels, pipes, and frozen pieces of trash floated like ghosts. They were inside the waste field, the ocean of junk that surrounded the Velith station. Aaron had tied a cable around her waist before they launched. He held the other end tightly, his gloved hands bleeding where the wire had cut him. We made it, he whispered, more to himself than her. We're alive, Lisa looked back. The station behind them burned like a dying star, its red light spreading across the void. Alive for now, she said softly. That thing is going to blow. Yeah, Aaron answered. That's the plan. He kicked at a piece of floating metal, pushing them closer to a tangled net of cables hanging between two broken satellites. I rigged some catch nets here before, he said, breathing hard. Didn't think I'd be using them like this. They crashed into the net, the cables wrapping around them. Lisa winced as one cut into her arm, but at least they stopped moving. Aaron looked around. The only light came from the station's glow behind them, and a small blinking red dot on his wrist device. We have to move, he said. Search drones will come soon. Where do we go? She asked. He pointed toward a shadow far off in the distance, a dark shape half hidden by debris. There, he said. An old cargo scow. I fixed it once. It still has power, I think. They began pulling themselves along the net, drifting from one floating object to another. Each move was slow and careful. Sometimes the debris turned sharply, threatening to tear their thin suits. Every breath sounded too loud in the silence. Halfway across, Lisa froze. Aaron, she whispered. Look. He followed her gaze. Between them and the scow, 3 small lights were moving, cold white circles that scanned the trash field. Drones, he said grimly. Velith scouts, Lisa's heart raced. They'll find us. Not if we confuse them, Arin said. He started tearing pieces of metal loose from the net. Help me build a decoy. They worked quickly, floating side by side in the dark, attaching bits of scrap to a large plate. Arin rewired a broken power cell and placed it inside. The metal began to glow faintly, warm enough to look like living heat. Go, he whispered. They pushed the fake target away. It drifted slowly, spinning through the debris field. The drone saw it and changed direction, speeding after the decoy. Lisa watched, holding her breath until the last light disappeared. Then she turned to Arin. You really are crazy. Comes with the job, he said, smiling weakly. They kept moving. The scow grew larger with every pull. It was an ugly ship, half broken, covered in rust. But to them it looked like hope. When they reached it, Arin tapped the side. Still here, he whispered. Good old bucket. He opened a maintenance hatch and pushed Lisa inside first. She landed hard on the cold metal floor, her hands shaking. Inside, the air smelled like oil and dust. Everything was dark except for a faint blue light flickering from an old control screen. Arin climbed in behind her, sealing the hatch. He moved to the console, pressing buttons and twisting wires. Sparks flew. Come on, he muttered. Don't be dead. The ship's systems groaned, then came alive with a deep hum. Lights flickered on. Yes, Arin said, laughing breathlessly. We've got power. Lisa leaned against the wall, eyes half closed. You did it, he turned to her, wiping sweat from his brow. No, we did it. For a few seconds there was peace, just the quiet hum of the ship and the soft pulse of light. But then a warning tone echoed through the cabin. Arin's face changed. What is it? Lisa asked quickly. He looked at the screen. The reactor back there. It's unstable. Radiation spike is off the charts. Lisa moved closer, staring at the burning station outside. If it explodes, it will send a wave through the debris field. Exactly, Arin said. And we're sitting right in the middle of it. He ran to the controls. We need to move now. The ship's engines stuttered, coughed, then came alive. The scow started drifting away from the station. Lisa stood beside him, gripping the console as the vibrations shook the floor. How far before we're safe? Arin didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the countdown on the screen. Not far enough, he whispered. Through the window, they saw the Velith station crack open. For a moment, it looked like a red sun trying to rise. Then the explosion came. Slow at first, then a growing storm of fire and light. The shockwave hit them. The ship spun violently. Lisa was thrown against the wall. Arin slammed his hand against the controls, fighting to stabilize the ship. Hold on, he shouted. The scow tumbled through space, metal groaning under the force. Pieces of debris slammed against the hull. Then silence again. When Lisa opened her eyes, everything was still. The stars had returned. The burning station was gone, replaced by a glowing cloud of dust. Arin slumped over the console, breathing hard. We're alive, he said between gasps. She smiled weakly. You keep saying that. Because it keeps being true, he replied. Then from the dark a faint blue light appeared, small, moving toward them. Lisa squinted. What is that? Arin turned slowly, his expression hardening. That, he said, is not debris. The light grew brighter, revealing sharp edges and long wings. A Velith gunship. The blue light grew larger, sharper, until it filled the viewport like a hunting eye. The Velith gunship moved silently, its engines giving no sound, its hull smooth as glass. Lisa's breath caught. They found us, she whispered. Arin's hands flew across the controls. They're scanning. Hold still. The ship's lights dimmed as he powered everything down. The old scow drifted silently, floating among the endless wreckage. The only sound was their breathing. Through the cracked window, the gunship passed, so close they could see the white line glow of the Velith inside. Lisa didn't blink. Arin didn't move. The gunship's search beam slid across the debris, then stopped. For a terrible moment, the light rested on their ship. Lisa's hand trembled, reaching for Arin's sleeve. But the beam moved away. The gunship turned and vanished into the dark. They didn't breathe until it was gone. Arin slumped back in the seat. Close one, he said softly. Lisa leaned her head against the cold wall. You call that close? Hey, he said with a tired smile. We're still breathing, aren't we? He tried to restart the engines, but the scow only gave a weak whine. We can't run far like this, he muttered. What now? He stared out the window. We go back, Lisa blinked. Back where? To what's left of the station, he said. They'll think we're dead. It's our only chance to hide. She looked at him as if he'd gone mad. You want to go back into the place we just escaped from? He nodded. They won't expect it. The inner levels might still have power, maybe even a working shuttle. Lisa hesitated, then sighed. You're insane. Yeah, he said quietly. But it's the only insane idea that keeps us alive. They drifted for hours through the ruins of the explosion. The wreckage was everywhere. Floating halls, twisted beams, shards of metal that once were walls. Lisa stared at the destruction, her heart heavy. All this, for one question, she murmured. They never cared about answers, Aaron said. They just wanted to control fear. When they reached the remains of the station, they anchored the scow against a broken airlock. Aaron forced it open with a crowbar. Air hissed out like a sigh from a ghost. Inside was darkness. No lights, no voices, only dust drifting like snow. The once perfect Velith halls were cracked and silent. Lisa stepped carefully, her bare feet making no sound. Every shadow felt alive. Every echo made her heart jump. They found a maintenance corridor half buried in debris. Aaron brushed away dust and found something glowing faintly beneath, a cracked memory crystal. He picked it up and tapped the side. The crystal flickered to life, projecting a faint image in the air. A Velith officer recording a report. Experiment 17B, the voice said, emotionless. Subject resisted longer than expected. Pain threshold higher than standard. The recording cut off. Lisa stared at it, her chest tight. That was me. Aaron looked at her softly. Then we'll make sure the galaxy knows. He stuffed the crystal into his pocket. They kept walking until they reached a heavy door marked with the Velith symbol. Aaron forced it open, and behind it was a room full of glowing blue cylinders stacked to the ceiling. A memory archive. Each one held recordings like the one he'd found. Voices of victims. Proof of everything the Velith had done. Lisa walked among them slowly, her fingers brushing the glass. All their crimes, she whispered. All their secrets. Aaron touched her shoulder. We can't take them all, but we can send one message. He knelt by a console and began connecting wires. Sparks flew. If I reroute this to the beacon tower, we can broadcast their truth before they stop us. Lisa smiled faintly. You always find a way to make machines tell the truth. Aaron grinned. Machines don't lie. People do. But before he could finish the circuit, a faint sound came from the hall outside. A small, broken sob. Lisa froze. Did you hear that? Aaron raised his head. Another sound followed, a weak, trembling voice. Help, please. Lisa ran toward the door before he could stop her. In a corner cell, she found a small alien child no older than 8, covered in bruises and dirt. Aaron's heart sank. They kept prisoners here. Lisa knelt and whispered gently, It's okay. You're safe now. She lifted the child carefully, cradling her against her chest. We have to hurry, Aaron said. If that kid's alive, there might be others. They freed 2 more, a woman and an old man, both weak and frightened. Lisa turned to Aaron. We can't leave them. I know, he said, glancing at the flickering console. But the EMP timer is still running. Once it goes off, we'll have 10 seconds before every system dies. Lisa held the child closer. Then we run faster. The lights above flickered. The timer hit its final seconds. Aaron grabbed the memory crystal and shouted, Move! They raced down the hall, the floor shaking beneath their feet. The hum of power grew into a roar. Behind them, a shadow stepped into the doorway. A Velith commander, his eyes glowing white in the dark. You. The creature hissed, voice calm but full of hate. You should have died in the fire. Aaron turned, holding a broken pipe like a weapon. Guess the fire missed. The commander tilted his head. You can't escape. The heart of this station belongs to the Velith. Aaron smiled, his voice low. Then it's time to stop it from beating. The EMP detonated. The world went white. The blast from the EMP rolled through the corridor like thunder trapped in metal. The blue glow of the Velith station flickered, sputtered, then died. Silence swallowed everything. Dust drifted down from the ceiling like falling ash. Lisa opened her eyes. Her ears rang. The child in her arms whimpered softly. Smoke filled the air. Beside her, Aaron lay on his back, chest rising and falling slowly. Aaron, she whispered, shaking him. Aaron, wake up. His eyes opened halfway, unfocused but alive. He groaned. Still here, not dead yet. Lisa exhaled, relief washing through her. Good, she said, her voice trembling. Because the commander is still standing. Through the fading smoke, the shape of the Velith commander appeared. His armor was cracked, glowing from within like embers beneath glass. Each step he took made the floor tremble. His white-line eyes burned brighter than ever. You broke my station, the commander said, voice calm and cold. Do you think that makes you strong? Aaron pushed himself up, his body shaking. No, he said quietly. It makes you weak. The commander tilted his head. Explain. You built a place full of fear, Aaron said, his voice growing stronger. And I broke it with one spark of hope. The Velith raised his arm. A pulse of white light shot forward, hitting the wall beside them. The impact threw debris into the air. Lysa ducked, shielding the child. Aaron grabbed a broken pipe from the floor. It wasn't a weapon. It was a piece of survival. He faced the commander, breathing hard. You should have stayed in your shadows. The Velith moved fast, faster than any human could follow. Aaron barely dodged the next strike. Sparks burst as the alien's blade scraped the floor. The room filled with the smell of burning metal. Lisa looked around frantically for anything she could use. Her gaze landed on a power conduit flickering weakly in the corner. Aaron, she shouted. The conduit, behind you. He turned just in time to see the glowing cable. He swung the pipe, hitting it hard. The conduit exploded, throwing electricity into the air. The current hit both of them. The Velith screamed, a deep alien roar that shook the walls. Aaron fell to his knees, his arm smoking. The commander stumbled back, armor sparking. Lisa rushed to Aaron, helping him stand. We have to move. He nodded weakly. Not yet, he looked around. The EMP had done its job. Every system was dead. But that meant the doors, too, were locked. The way out was sealed. Where's the docking bay? He asked. Lisa pointed down a narrow hall. 2 levels below. Then we go down. They guided the rescued prisoners through the dark hallways. Without power, the station was like a tomb, quiet, heavy, and cold. Every step echoed. The child clung to Lysa's neck, whispering, Is the light coming back? Lisa's voice softened. No, little one. But that's good. The dark means they can't find us. They reached the lift shaft, but it was dead. Aaron looked up, then down. We climb, he said. He tore a maintenance cable from the wall and tied it around a pipe. Hold on tight, he told the others. Don't look down. One by one, they climbed. Lysa's arms ached, her legs trembling. But every time she wanted to stop, she looked at the small hands around her neck and kept going. When they reached the lower deck, Aaron pried open the doors. The docking bay stretched before them, a vast space filled with shadows and broken ships. Rows of Velith shuttles stood like silent beasts. Lisa's heart lifted. We can escape. Aaron frowned. Not so easy. They're locked with biometric keys. He knelt beside one of the consoles, opening the control panel. Velith tech is proud, he muttered. Too proud, Lisa tilted her head. Meaning? Meaning, he said. They never thought someone like me would steal their toys. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small shard of the commander's armor, still glowing faintly from the fight. This will do. Lisa watched as he pressed the shard against the lock. Sparks flew. The panel beeped once, then turned green. The shuttle door slid open. She stared at him in disbelief. You're full of miracles, he grinned weakly. No, just bad ideas that work. They hurried everyone inside. The shuttle's interior was cold and clean, like everything Velith built. Lisa placed the child in a seat and checked the controls. Can you fly this thing? Aaron smiled faintly. I can make it go forward. That's enough. He powered up the engines. The shuttle shook, lights flickering to life. But as they prepared to lift off, a warning appeared on the screen. Reactor instability. Plasma vent imminent. Lysa frowned. What does that mean? Aaron's smile faded. It means the station's heart is still beating, and it's about to tear itself apart. A deep rumble echoed through the walls. The floor vibrated beneath their feet. Outside the window, they saw waves of blue light pulsing from the reactor core. Everyone buckle in, Aaron shouted. This is going to be rough. The engines roared. The shuttle lifted from the ground, shaking violently. Pieces of metal rained down from the ceiling. Lisa held onto the seat, whispering, "Please don't break. Please don't break." Aaron pushed the throttle forward. The shuttle shot down the launch tunnel just as the reactor's core burst open behind them. A wave of fire chased them through the darkness. The shockwave caught the tail of the shuttle, spinning it sideways. "Hold it steady," Lisa screamed. "I'm trying," Aaron yelled, gripping the controls. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Alarms blared. Then suddenly, light. The shuttle burst free from the station, breaking into open space. The explosion behind them painted the stars blue and white. For a few long seconds, they floated in silence. Then Lisa turned to Aaron. "We made it," she whispered. He nodded, breathing hard. "We did." But on the control screen, a new signal appeared, a red mark moving fast toward them. Lisa frowned. "What is that?" Aaron's eyes narrowed. "Not a meteor." He leaned closer. The screen zoomed in, a Valeth symbol, a fleet coming for them. The stars had never looked so close or so dangerous. The shuttle drifted between them, a small spark surrounded by endless dark. Inside, alarms blinked red. The radar screamed. They were coming. Lisa stood behind Aaron, staring at the screen that showed 3 Veleth ships cutting through space, cold and perfect like blades. "They followed us," she whispered. Aaron's hands tightened on the controls. "Of course they did," he said softly. "They can't let witnesses live." The rescued child whimpered, clutching Lisa's arm. The old man sat motionless, whispering prayers in a language neither of them understood. The air was thin, heavy with fear. Aaron glanced over his shoulder. "Everyone strap in. No matter what happens, don't unbuckle." Lisa buckled the child and the others first, then fastened her own belt. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled. "What are you going to do?" Aaron gave a small grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Something stupid, again." The Veleth ships fired a warning beam across their path. White light flashed past the viewport. Aaron swerved sharply. The shuttle shook. Lisa screamed as the gravity field flickered and they were thrown sideways. Metal groaned. A panel burst, sending sparks across the floor. The child cried out. Aaron slammed the throttle forward. "Hold on." The shuttle dove between 2 floating pieces of debris from the exploded station. The engines screamed. Behind them, the Valeth ships spread out like predators surrounding prey. "They're faster," Lisa said. "Yeah," Aaron muttered. "But I'm not racing fair." He pressed 3 buttons at once. The shuttle's left wing flickered, lights dying. The ship tilted, then spun violently. Lisa gasped. "What are you doing?" "Making us look dead." The engines cut off. Everything went silent. No hum, no alarm. Only their hearts beating. Through the cracked viewport, the Veleth ships slowed. One of them stopped a few hundred meters away, scanning. The others circled like vultures. Aaron whispered, "Stay quiet." They waited. Every second felt like an hour. Sweat dripped down Aaron's face. Lisa held her breath, afraid even air would give them away. Finally, one of the Veleth ships drifted closer. Its white light swept across their hull, pausing on the cracked metal. Lisa's pulse pounded in her ears. The child squeezed her hand, the light moved away. The ship turned. "They're leaving," she breathed. Aaron didn't answer. His eyes stayed on the radar. 1 red dot remained, still watching, still waiting. Then, without warning, the Veleth ship fired. The blast hit the shuttle's tail. The whole craft lurched. Alarms screamed back to life. Aaron grabbed the controls. "That one's not buying it." He hit the engines. They coughed, then roared. The shuttle shot forward. Another blast missed by inches. Lisa fell against her harness. "Can't you fight back?" she shouted. "Not with weapons I don't have," he yelled, twisting the ship sharply to the left. "But I can make them regret chasing me." He aimed the shuttle toward a wide field of shattered satellites, metal shards spinning slowly like a silver storm. Lisa's eyes widened. "You'll tear us apart." "Better us than them." They plunged into the debris field. The Veleth ship followed, its sleek hull slicing through the wreckage. Aaron zigzagged between spinning metal plates, sparks flashing around them. A massive beam shot past, slicing a satellite in 2. The explosion rocked the shuttle. Lisa screamed. The child cried out again. Aaron gritted his teeth, every muscle tense. Almost there. A giant circular piece of wreckage drifted ahead, an old engine core, its mouth wide open. Aaron aimed straight for it. The Veleth followed. At the last second, Aaron flipped the shuttle and fired the reverse thrusters. The human ship stopped dead in space. The Velith didn't. It slammed into the wreckage, bursting into flame. The shockwaves spun their shuttle violently. Aaron fought the controls until the ship leveled again. He leaned back, breathing hard. "One down," he whispered. Lisa's voice shook. "And 2 more coming." He looked at the radar. She was right. The other 2 ships were closing fast. Aaron opened a side panel and started pulling wires. "What are you doing now?" "Rerouting power to the hull," he said. "I can make it shine like a mirror. Maybe hide us in a sunbeam." Lisa stared at him. "That's impossible." "Everything I do is impossible," he said with a grin. She smiled weakly. "You're mad, Aaron Vale." "I've been called worse." He connected the final wire. The shuttle's outer skin glowed silver, reflecting the nearby starlight. When the Velith beams scanned again, they hit only blinding glare. "They can't lock on," Lisa said. "Good," Aaron muttered. "Let's get out of their sight before they figure it out." He steered the ship toward a dark patch of space, a region filled with drifting shadows. "Drift space," he said. "No light, no signals. We hide there, then find a real ship." The shuttle entered the darkness, swallowed by silence. The radar dimmed. The Velith dots vanished. For the first time in hours, no alarms screamed. No explosions. Just quiet. Lisa unbuckled her harness and sat beside him. Her voice was soft. "You saved us again." He didn't look at her. "I saved us for now." She turned her head, staring out into the black. "You don't believe we'll make it home?" Aaron sighed. "Home's a long way from here, but we'll keep moving until we find it." Behind them, faint light flickered. The burning remains of the Velith station fading like a dying memory. Aaron reached for the throttle again. "We're not done," he said quietly. "We still have to tell the galaxy what they did." Before Lisa could reply, the radar beeped once more. A single new signal appeared, much larger than before. Aaron's face went pale. "That's not a ship," he said slowly. "That's a cruiser net. They're bringing their warship." Lisa looked at him, fear and fury in her voice. "Then we end this," Aaron nodded. "Yeah," he whispered. "We end it." The stars vanished behind the shadow of something massive. The Velith cruiser emerged, a black giant stretching across space. Its hull shimmered with white veins of energy, each one pulsing like the heartbeat of a god. The sight froze Lisa's breath. "They brought their flagship," she whispered. Aaron didn't answer. His hands moved fast across the controls, trying to keep the shuttle from being trapped in the net forming around them. Thin beams of light extended from the cruiser, connecting into a glowing web. The net closed. "Aaron," Lisa said softly, "we can't run." He glanced at her. His face was pale, but his eyes burned bright. "Then we fight smart." He turned to the rescued prisoners. "Stay buckled. Don't make a sound unless I tell you. Whatever happens, do not open that hatch." The old man nodded shakily. The child held Lisa's hand tightly. Outside, the net's energy lines vibrated like strings of light. One touch from it could crush their small shuttle. The Velith ship broadcasted a message, a cold, emotionless voice that filled the cabin. "Human vessel, surrender. You will be taken alive for reconditioning." Lisa clenched her fists. "Reconditioning means torture," Aaron exhaled slowly. "Yeah, I figured." He looked at the memory crystal he'd taken from the archive, the one holding proof of all the Velith's crimes. It sat on the console, glowing faintly blue. "They can't get this," he said. "If they do, all those voices die again." Lisa's eyes filled with determination. "Then we make sure they don't." Aaron's mind raced. The net was made of communication lines, energy tuned to capture signals and mass both. He couldn't break it by strength, but maybe he could overload it. He turned to Lisa. "You remember when I said I fixed a reactor with chewing gum?" She blinked. "You can't be serious." "I'm always serious when I'm stupid," he said, half smiling. "If I reverse the feedback on their own jamming signal, it'll bounce through the net and overload their sensors. It will also fry our systems," she said quietly. "Yeah," he admitted. "It'll fry me too, but it'll make them blind long enough to send the message." Lisa stared at him, voice trembling. "No, you've done enough." "You can't," he looked at her gently. "Lisa, you taught me something back in that cell." She frowned. "What did I teach you?" "That hope isn't something we wait for," he said softly. "It's something we build even if it burns." She didn't speak. Her throat felt tight. The child looked up at her, whispering, Don't let him go. Aaron reached for the controls. You'll know when to send the message, he said quietly. You'll feel it. Lisa grabbed his hand. Aaron? But he smiled, a small, tired smile. Tell them I said humans don't bow. Before she could stop him, he opened the maintenance panel under the console and crawled inside, wires sparking around him. The cabin lights dimmed. Outside, the Velith cruiser's net glowed brighter. A beam of white light locked onto their shuttle. Human craft, the cold voice said again. Final warning. Aaron's voice echoed through the radio, faint and strained. Yeah. Give me a second. Then the shuttle shook violently. Alarms blared. The entire ship glowed red as Aaron's signal feedback began. The net around them flickered, then pulsed as the reversed current struck it. Inside the cruiser, chaos began. The net's control lines overloaded. Power arced across the hull. Lisa watched through the viewport, her heart pounding. The Velith cruiser shuddered. She felt the moment. She knew it. She slammed her hand onto the broadcast control. This is Lisa of the Velith station, she shouted into the open channel, her voice strong and clear. They tortured me. They tortured thousands. Their pain had no mark, but it was real. Let the galaxy see it. She sent the memory crystal's data to every open frequency. The signal burst across the stars, spreading faster than light. Images of prisoners, voices of the broken, records of cruelty. All of it flooded the networks of nearby worlds. On colonies far away, people looked up and saw truth for the first time. Inside the cruiser, systems crashed one by one. The white veins of energy burned red. Lisa shouted, Aaron! It worked! Come back! No answer. She ran to the maintenance hatch and pulled it open. Sparks flew out, burning her hands. Aaron! Then she saw him, curled under the panel, his face lit by flickering light. He was breathing barely. She dragged him out, holding him close. His voice was weak, almost gone. Did we do it? Yes, she whispered, tears falling. You did it. He smiled faintly. Then maybe humans aren't so reckless after all. Outside the viewport, the Velith cruiser cracked open like a dying star. Ships from nearby rebel colonies appeared, small, fast, angry. They fired on the cruiser, tearing it apart piece by piece. Lisa watched in silence as the great ship burned. The galaxy had seen. There would be no more hiding. When it was over, she turned back to Aaron. His eyes were closed, his hand cold in hers. For a moment, she thought he was gone. Then his fingers twitched. Still alive? She whispered. He smiled weakly. I promised, didn't I? She laughed through tears. Yes, you did. The child ran forward, wrapping her arms around them both. The old man bowed his head in quiet prayer. Outside, the stars seemed brighter than before. Lisa looked at the fading wreck of the Velith fleet and whispered, Clean pain ends here. Aaron opened his eyes halfway. What did you say? She smiled softly. Something worth remembering.